Hello everyone and welcome to another installment of Bathroom Brews. For this week's deck tech, I wanted to provide you lovely people with a budget brew of one of the most popular commanders from Lost Caverns of Ixalan, Ojer Axonil, Deepest Might. As always, this deck will be $50 excluding the price of the commander, so let's find out if they're the best mono red burden commander or just another flash in the pan. And if you could take a moment to give this video a like, it really helps out the channel. You can also sign up to be a member to get some great perks. Alright, with all the plugs out of the way, let's get into it. The idea for this deck is going to be pretty simple. It's 36 Dragons Approach and some dragons. Alright, I'll see you next week. No, I'm only kidding. Dragons Approach is like $3 each, so it's not really budget. Instead, I went with a more traditional mono red burn deck with some specific includes to buff the commander's power. There are 3 equipment that stood out to me right away were Enchanter's Pike, Glamdring, and Champion's Helm. Pike and Glam will buff our commander as we burn out the table, and Glamdring has the added benefit of allowing us to cast spells from our graveyard if we deal combat damage. Then the newly reprinted Champion's Helm is just a cheap equipment to give our commander protection and a small buff. I wanted to include Colossus Hammer, but I don't think the equip cost of 8 is realistic, even if we included rituals. If you want to give this god fire breathing, Dragon Mantle is exactly what you want. Plus it'll replace itself when it enters the battlefield, which is nice. And since we are a mono red deck, Claws of Valakut will allow us to burn out the table that much faster. But not all buffs need to be permanent if we can burn out the table in one shot. One of the best combat tricks is Unleash Fury to double our commander's power for the low cost of 2 mana. That, in combination with Fists of Flame and Monstrous Rage, will make our commander so massive a single Earthquake might be enough to end the game. You might think that only having 14 creatures in the deck is wild, but with a deck as focused as this, we don't need any other bodies aside from our commander. There are only 2 types of creatures we really want to add to this deck: if they ramp or if they burn. The best burn creatures are Cinder Pyromancer, Kessig Flamebreather, and Firebrand Archer. Cinder Pyromancer is great since 77% of our deck is red, so it'll be untapping most of the time. Both Kessig Flamebreather and Firebrand Archer will pay us off for casting non-creature spells, which is 49 cards of our 100. There's also a class of creatures that burn when we cast instant and sorcery spells. We have Erebor Flamesmith, Gutter Snipe, and Electrostatic Field. But we only have 23 instants and sorceries in the deck, so I'm still on the fence if they're worth the include. Same goes for Unruly Catapult and Thermo Alchemist. The last batch of creatures are more utility focused. Levin, Cultist of Tiamat, will help grow our commander throughout the turn, possibly leading to wins seemingly out of nowhere. Also, Harsh Mentor and Immolation Shaman are there to help punish people for playing treasures or utility lands. Because our commander's ability only increases damage done to players, we want spells that can go face, and we want them to be as efficient as possible. Cards like Lava Dart will burn someone for 20% of their total life with our commander in play, assuming we flash it back. Or we have Shock, which I'd rarely ever say play in commander, but this is one of the best homes for it. And I included 60-card All-Star Spikefield Hazard, which doubles as a tap land. But burning out players one at a time, while fun, isn't the most efficient way to win. Instead, we want to burn out the entire table all at once, which is pretty easy to do on a budget. Now, I'm 99% sure you can cast Earthquake for X equals 0 and it will still deal damage equal to our commander's power, but even if you have to spend 1 extra mana, it's a great burn spell. Same goes for End the Festivities and the new Tectonic Hazard. These 1-mana sorceries will deal a total of 12 damage most of the time, which is pretty powerful. And then for the low cost of 4 mana, Fiery Confluence can deal a total of 36 damage. But we also want unconditional ways to deal damage on our turn. And that's where cards like Roiling Vortex and Sulfuric Vortex come in. These are also great because they help stop life gain strategies. Or we can just punish players for playing the game with Burning Earth and Mana Barbs. But one of my favorite burn enchantments is only $2 at the time of recording, and is only seeing play in 3% of red decks. That's Descent into Avernus. This enchantment not only burns out the table quickly, it also gives you treasure tokens. It does give your opponents treasures, but we have creatures to deter them from cracking them, and you get the treasures before they do, giving you access to the mana first. In recent years, WotC has been giving us more red impulse draw, or exiling cards from your library for a turn or two, instead of traditional draw. The best impulse draw effect we have is Virtue of Courage. This is a 5-mana enchantment that isn't only a burn spell, but it's a way to generate massive card advantage in a single turn. It is unfortunate that you can only play cards for 1 turn, but it is a May trigger, which means you can be more selective when you want to exile cards. Return the Past is another great option that gives your instants and sorcery spells flashback for their mana cost, but only on your turn. And we have standard All-Star from years ago, Chandra Torch of Defiance, which is either burn or card selection. Now this next card might seem like a meme, but I actually think it's one of the best cards in the deck, and it's one of my favorite cards in recent memory. Dance with Calamity. With an average mana value of 2.56, you should be able to flip about 4 to 5 cards whenever the spell resolves. Honestly, you haven't lived until you've copied it with Pyromancer's Goggles. Again, while a bit of a meme card, this can end games out of nowhere with the right setup. There is a very important rule I would like to share with you. It's Rule 616.1. It says, if 2 or more replacement and/or prevention effects are attempting to modify the way an event affects an object or a player, the affected object controller, or its owners if it has no controller, or the affected player chooses one to apply. This basically means if you have 2 or more replacement effects, the person being targeted picks the order they will apply. This means cards that either add additional damage or double damage aren't great with this commander, because your opponent will simply pick the option that's the least amount of damage. In my opinion, you only want to add damage triplers to this deck. Cards like Fiery Emancipation and City on Fire, which are only about $4 at the time of recording. If you're looking to spend just a little bit more money to push the deck that much further, my first pickup would be Jeska's Will. It's a powerhouse in every single red deck, and this commander is no exception. Next is Ruby Medallion. While this card isn't the most exciting, the amount of mana that it can ramp you over the course of the game is pretty massive, and these were just reprinted. And finally, we have Neheb the Eternal. This is one of the best creatures for the deck, as it gives you more mana to cast other spells, and can even be a backup commander for the deck. So, is Ojer Axonil the best mono-red burn commander? Honestly, I don't think so. Do I think they're incredibly powerful and fun? Well, of course, that's why I made a video on them. My biggest issue with them as a commander is how reliant the deck is to have them in play. He is resilient, which is a plus, but Solfim Mayhem Dominus is the same mana value and can become indestructible, and it also doubles damage to opponents and their permanents. I think the best way to put this is other mono-red commanders have a higher floor, but Axonil has a higher ceiling. Let me know your thoughts on the deck and how strong you think this commander is in the comment section below, and are you excited to build him or just going to put him in the 99 of a deck? And if you can give this video a like and subscribe, it really helps out the channel. Alrighty, see ya!